Hi, welcome everyone to this week's edition of our bi-weekly update. I just wanted to welcome you here today as we start to enter what I call the fall season. Today is back to school day for my kids. So this morning was the first early morning for them in a while to get up and go to school. So kind of a fun time. It's kind of a season, a passage. If you remember those times as well with your kids or being a kid, going back to school is always one of those exciting times and also a little bit of a sad time because summer is generally over. So the weather has cooperated. It's back in the 70s here as well. Beautiful, wonderful temperatures. For those of you who came yesterday to our Eat Outside Day, which was yesterday at Gentine, we had around 70 of you clients here. It was a wonderful day. We enjoyed it with you, seeing a little bit of an open house and also having a bit of a car show from several of our clients bringing their wonderful hot rods and vehicles that they restored, if you will, to us as well. So it's wonderful. So we've got a lot to go on today. We will potentially or today be without Ken as his kids are going to school this morning right about now. So we wanted to welcome him to that, but we'll have myself and Zach here. And what I wanted to do though first before I go forward is bring Mike on. So today Michael Mann, our wonderful behind the scenes man, who's also sometimes out front now, is going to bring us housekeeping today.
Thanks, Chris. No, I really appreciate, being brought out from behind the scenes and given the opportunity to do these things. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming yesterday. It was a great turnout. I mean, it was our first Gentine cookout and being able to use the new building, and super appreciative to see everyone and see faces, and looking forward to some more events like that in the future. But to start, we have some dates that you're going to want to mark on your calendar. On Monday, September 6th, our office is closed in observance of Labor Day. That will be next Monday. Sunday, September 12th is Grandparents' Day. So please stop by the Mequon Public Market for a community event that we're sponsoring. There's going to be live music by local youth members and complimentary snacks and beverages, as well as a memory making handprint project. So make sure to come out for that. Grandparents, bring your grandchildren, and vice versa. On Wednesday, September 15th will be our next bi-weekly update. Tuesday, September 21st is World Gratitude Day. Tuesday, October 5th is our fall forum at Blue Mountain Country Club. We have set out the invites for that, so please register or let us know that you're going to be coming. Wednesday, October 20th will be our next Ladies and Gentian event. And on Thursday, October 28th will be our Health and Wealth Forum. That's everything we got coming up. I'll send it back to Chris.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I know the last women's webinar, my daughter was with my mother in Iowa during that, and they very, very much enjoyed that. So I know those are wonderful, wonderful meetings, and I think the Ladies and Gentine has really got some wonderful traction. So for those of you who missed it or maybe like to do it, I know a lot of you have been on vacation. I'm sure you hop on and catch that as well, because that's been a lot of fun and added a lot of value, if you will, to clients, especially this is the live it side of the equation. Remember, we're plan it, live it, and give it. This is really the live it side of the equation. And to some, it's the most important part of it. We help you plan it, put that together. You do the living of it, but if we can give you anything that helps make your experiences even better, we'd love to do so. So we're here for you in that sense as well. What I like to do is, of course, go big and begin in gratitude. So for myself, August has been a month really of taking some time, going back, reflecting, getting some things done that are important things to do, but maybe you don't have time when you're in the midst of everything going on. So my schedule becomes a bit lighter here for this month, but I've had some good opportunities, if you will, to really reflect, go through, do some reading, some thinking. So I've got a big download to come to bring to you, but I've also got some ideas as well with a book club coming up. So I'm going to do a book club probably once a quarter. And the most influential book I've seen is called Love Your Enemies. We're going to see who'd like to be in this club. I don't care if it's 2 people or 200. It's one of the books that probably has most changed my views in life. I haven't changed my views, but maybe enhanced the way that I perceive things, if you will. When I find those, I like to share them. There's some great books like that as well, I think, that are wonderful. I know you've shared some with me, like The Second Mountain as well. Also Wayne Dyer's Applying the Wisdom of the Ages. There's some just great books out there. And whenever I can get those that are timeless, I enjoy those. This is one of those that is timeless with a bunch of research. So there's some fun geeky stuff, but there's some very practical stuff you can take away as well. So that's something I'd like to do. But in the beginning gratitude side of the equation, I'm grateful for my family. I'm very much grateful for the summer, the weather, grateful for the adaptability, grateful for the ability to have people who have completely different opinions than me, the ability to have conversations with them in a very down to earth way. We had several of those recently on some different items. And I think that's the beauty of the United States. I know there's some people who are the exact opposite, and oftentimes the catastrophic, I'm going to call it the catastrophic media, the headline du jour, really promotes the idea of disharmony. And I think that's something I'm going to say. I'm grateful that a lot of what I've been exposed to lately doesn't include that. So that's for myself. There's a whole lot more I can go. I've got a massive list of gratitude, you especially, the time, the team here, the weather, that just so many things I have a list of gratitude for, and my gratitude books fill up pretty quick. But what I'd like to do is pass over to Zach. How about yourself, Zach?
Thank you, Chris. As me as well, it's very hard to shorten that list down for a quick go big. There's always a lot to be thankful for. Since the last weekly webinar, had a great opportunity to go to Colorado with my parents, which was a very special time and enhancing experiences with them. But really most pressing today is just extreme gratitude for the cookout yesterday and being able to spend time with those of you that were able to be here. It's an honor and it's truly humbling that we get to serve you and get to be, in many cases, part of your journey and part of your family as well. So it was just a tremendous day, tremendous work by our team behind the scenes to set it up. And it was just amazing to spend that time with each of you yesterday.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that as well. So a couple of things, if you follow our program at all, and for those of you who do, I always like to start with something a little bit funny. So I got to ask you a question. Why don't banks allow kangaroos to open accounts? Pretty obvious if you think about it, because their checks will bounce. So we've got a good friend from Australia. I told him that one yesterday. He thought it was quite funny. I was pretty fortunate recently just to see the lead singer of Men at Work, Colin Hay. And people go, well, who is that? Colin Hay. Well, to people in Australia, Colin Hay is like the Beatles. He's just really an icon, and he was the lead singer of Men at Work. If you remember from the 80s, Who Can It Be Now? All sorts of fun songs that came from then. We got to see him thanks to Jim Kazmarek up at Capco in a lot. We had just about 100 of us, a small venue, and a really, really neat event. So that's something I was going to say I was grateful for as well. But I like the joke kind of came out of the whole Australian theme. So if it's funny or not, it's not really the concern for me. Just I'll put it out there and you can use it for your kids and grandkids. They will think it's funny, especially because it's coming for you. Anyway, from you, I should say. So a couple of things I want to talk about today. There's a lot going on. There's COVID. There's Afghanistan. There's opinions on presidents. There's opinions on all sorts of different things out there as well. Taxes. Amazon's hiring 55,000 new tech jobs. There's 10 million job openings out there right now. And I think we have 4 million unemployed or something in that range. So there's a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on with the market. The market's at an all-time high. It really brings us an opportunity, what I call lifeboat drills. And what are lifeboat drills? To me, it's looking at what could be when things are really good. Right now, if we said we're not going to hold appointments for the next 6 months, people go, fine, everything's good, we're good, right? But that's not how we have relationship. Relationship for us is to continue to have those conversations about the planning it, living it, giving it, and then adaptability. A few more things that are on this list are tax law changes buried in an infrastructure bill. Got a lot of questions on that, but it's hard to answer anything when it's all proposition. And now it's all got to be worked out between the House and the Senate that don't care for each other, even within their own parties. There's a strong divide in both parties that is really not too key on what's going on with some of the different pieces and measures in the bills in both competing parties. So interesting to watch. I think when you start looking at what contempt has done for our ability to negotiate back and forth, it's really been unfortunate, at least in the political reigns. I think if you look at more the entrepreneurial and the business reigns, they still understand what competing means. It's working together to get better. And it doesn't mean that if the other person doesn't have your opinion, you call them an idiot and you move on. I think that's really the old, fifth grade or 5-year-old kindergarten way of working, but you're seeing a lot of that passing on. There's also something too, a couple things, maybe this is part of the technology program, the Future Loop part, but I think right now, Apple has just announced the states, I don't know what states yet, just saw the announcement that you're gonna be able to digitally hold your driver's license on your phone. So you don't have to bring your driver's license anymore when you go places. So I guess it's just a matter of time. I mean, maybe your passport will be on your phone as well. I know you can use a couple of apps to do that as well, but there's a lot of things going on where digital acceptance is really the case. You know my opinion on, I believe that there's some phenomenal things going on with technology that will solve, and there's some phenomenal, unfortunate things that technology will create as far as problems we'll have to adapt to. Let me give you one about kids. So I think if you look at this, does anybody remember when you were a kid Oh, wait a minute. I got to go back home and I got to get my iPhone. Anybody remember doing that as a kid? No, me neither. Well, you were untethered when you left. When you left school, you were untethered. You had a telephone with an actual, cord. And you look at, why would you have a phone with a cord, Dad? But what's interesting today is one of my daughter's good friends moved to Denver, Colorado. I mean, out of the school year, her father got a new job and she moved to Denver, Colorado. Before she moved there, she had 9 friends already. Never met them in person, but guess what part of her existence is? She had 9 friends that other friends had said she might like and would know by this thing. Part of the reality of our children is the fact that their relationships occur with this phone. They view, oh no, I'm staying in touch with all these people. They view that as the way we used to visit with people or go see your friends. It's part of the new reality, and I think it's something we have to accept, where I've fought it. And I really encourage the in-person meetings as well, like we had yesterday. We could have done that whole thing. If you cook out at home, let's do it by Zoom. It doesn't feel the same. But I'll tell you, it's a reality we have to look at. And I think there's some issues with that. We're going to have to promote with our grandchildren and children that are going to be, you still need to get together in person, even though you have this. So there's some great things about this phone and some rough things about this phone and technology. A few more of the things we see going on out there with some planning different issues. A lot of it's really individualized. I see a lot of people market timing, and I'm not talking just individuals. One thing I've got to tell you, and this is, Zach has known this forever. I've known it for a very long time, and I've taught it for probably the last 24 years. And I learned it the hard way. Don't mistake a bull market for brilliance. I mean that in the stock market. I mean that in the housing market. I mean that in cryptocurrencies, all this. Remember, cryptocurrency is like gold. There's no value in gold. Only what you and I believe it is a perceived pretty metal. Outside of that, it doesn't produce anything whatsoever. What are dollar bills? So why didn't you invest in the dollar? Oh wait, you all have. It's the currency with you exchange your portfolio to buy things so that you can make a living, right? That's what currencies are. So there's more we can get into in that, but I won't unpack that right now. But there's a lot going on with those as well. But I really have to say, don't mistake a bull market for brilliance. Now, this may sit with you now. Some of you may have done something, may have heard somebody do something, but here's a statement. You might even find one of your smart centers of influence or realtors or somebody saying something like, I just told somebody to sell their whole portfolio and buy real estate. Never could I hear those things, they make me cringe because some people actually do these kind of things. But you got to take a look at this. In what context? Why would you do this? What's the whole point of this? Are you buying into a market that's about to correct? I think being diversified in many ways is super important across many different fields. So again, you're going to see different comments like that, especially when the market's this good too. You've seen the emerging markets. You've seen several companies do very well. Apple hit an all-time high just recently as well. I'll let Zach go more through the markets. But I think as I run through this, there's going to be something today. I think my true theme today is going to be called faith, patience, and discipline. It's old, it's simple, but it's not easy. I'll unpack each one, but first, before we do that, I'll give Zach some time here because he's got some great stats on the markets and a little bit of planning we're going to talk about. But I'd like to unpack those faith, patience, and discipline because those are foundation blocks to what it is we do. It's not exciting, but it's extremely effective. So with that, Zach, what's been going on with markets and investments?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And as you were sharing another great dad joke, I started chuckling and I'm like, man, these are starting to get funny to me. I might have to go to the doctor and figure out what's going on physiologically with me if these are starting to get funnier and funnier each time. But
you're getting older.
But we have, as our team went through, we have a ton of market facts to go through. We try to just bring a couple of them to you that are the most pertinent and kind of align with what Chris is talking about as well, as far as lifeboat drills and never really trying to guess or assume what's coming. The S&P 500 up 20.41%, about a 2% increase from our last webinar 2 weeks ago. As of this morning, the S&P has had 7 consecutive positive months and hasn't had a 5% correction since last October. And nearly 90% of companies in Q2 exceeded analyst forecast earnings, and it's the highest levels beat since 1994. If we look back over the last 7 months, there's been a lot of uncertainty with Delta variant. That includes last year's election where both sides of the parties were very concerned of what was going to happen and still had positive months and 7 great months of run in it. And it's just another great example of never try to assume or try to guess what's coming and why we're always prepared for corrections and those lifeboat drills that Chris mentioned as well. The Dow Jones up 15.53, which is now 35,360. And just as a friendly reminder, which we share very often, is the media is going to share not the percentage drop, but the points drop, so that the dollars are getting, or the number is getting higher and higher. So is the point drop, even though the percentage is normal and is part of everyday market movements. The NASDAQ 18.40%, the Russell 2000, which tracks small caps and mid caps, 15.14, and growth 6.67 for small caps, which is a 5% increase in the last 2 weeks, and value for small cap 24.24 year to date, and that's about a 3% increase in the last 2 weeks as well. International has seen some increase in the last 2 weeks. They're at 8.22%, about a 2% increase since last week. And emerging markets, 1.39% positive on the year, which is still lagging obviously the other indexes we gave you, but a 3% increase in the last 2 weeks. Fixed income, relatively flat. As you can imagine, the 1 year 0.07% for Treasury, the 5 year 0.78, the 10 year 1.29, and the 30 year 1.91. As far as a few other interesting things that we look through, mortgage rates still relatively low, seeing rates around 2 to 2.5% for refinancing. And something really interesting we saw on Yahoo recently was, according to S&P CoreLogic, Case-Shiller National Home Price Index, it rose 16.8% in May, and then another 18.6% in June. So this is the 13th straight month of accelerated price increases on the real estate and home market. Something also recently that we went through, Ryan on our team did a massive study on the impact of ETFs versus active managed mutual funds inside of a non-retirement account and the impact it has on taxes. And if and when we can get that through our compliance to share it, we'll go through, but it was a great and massive study, that one of those that we do behind the scenes. We're always looking and kind of testing different theories and different practices to potentially bring to you if they apply. So something a little bit off topic from markets, but something that Chris brings up often. And I remember 4 years ago at one of actually the first seminar that I attended as a Gentian attendee, Chris talked about drones and the impact that they would have and in the future. And recently we read that Wing, a drone developer by Google, said it reached a key milestone of 100,000 orders by drone. Most of these deliveries were made in under 10 minutes with a record time under 2 minutes and 47 seconds. So all of those things that Chris has mentioned to us over the last several years is starting to come to fruition, and in many cases a lot faster than we thought as well.
Thank you, Zach. It's interesting, a lot of what you said too, in perspective. As you go through, I've been in this business a long time, 25 years, a little more, and watching what's occurred, what I call mean reversion. So things that are undervalued historically and pretty heavily that nobody wants to be in, often become over the next few years some of the favorites and some of the best performing categories, even when you don't think it's going to happen. I remember that many, many times as that's occurred. Well, this technology is coming in, why would any other industry do well? And all of a sudden you'll find that something like Disney does well for 8 or 10 years when people have counted it out, or McDonald's. It's an interesting thing just to see some of the different names, some of the different categories and mean reversion. And really, I'd say how important it is to stay diversified, to do rebalancing, to have a discipline. So when I talked about it before, it kind of, you really struck this, Zach, 3 things: faith in the markets and faith in the future is number one. You have to have that. And I think optimism is the only realism. But I look at it this way: realism can be your optimism. So I flip it around a little bit as well. So, and it's not being Pollyanna. The second one, so faith and patience. I'm going to talk about patience. It's extremely easy and very hard to do. Just like that. I was patient for 8 seconds to not say anything after I said that. Man, that's hard for me to do. Next one as well is discipline. The discipline to have that 8 seconds is very difficult as well. So faith, patience, and discipline, when I really apply them to the foundations of what we do, if we're building a pyramid, a plan on the planet side of the equation, this faith, patience, and discipline on the plan side of the equation is extremely important. It's the number one thing we can teach you, which is a proper behavior. And to our clients, you guys have really done extremely well. You've been through, many of you have been through it for 20, 24 years. You've been through 2 or 3 major corrections and the average 14% downturn that happens every single year. And it's become routine to you. So that's important. So you've learned that through perspective to have the patience you need. But it first starts with the foundational faith in the future that things are going to get better. If I go back 100 years, Zach, let me ask you a question. If I go back 100 years on the market, and we know this because there's data on it from S&P and political calculations as well, but how many of the corrections that we've had in the last 100 years have meant the end of the market? Have any of them? Zero. Okay, so how many of those corrections have actually led the market to a higher point at some point in the future?
All of them.
All of them. So wait a minute. So you're telling me that odds are, at least in the last 100 years, that we really have very little chance of any correction that you hit being permanent. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. So faith in the future is easy when you look at the past. Here's the thing, the future is unknowable. What we just talked about can be verified backward with data. There are no facts in the future that can be verified by data because it doesn't exist. Data is after something happens. So when you look at this, that's the faith in the future. That's the unknowable. That's having the adaptability. Hey, listen, we've been through something before. I find the longer my clients have been around and been in this this world, it's easier for them to have that. Okay, we've been through this. We've been through this. And if you've been through the 1918 pandemic with the flu, if you will, Spanish flu, then it's easier for you to look at what's going on today. It's just there's not many 120-year-olds around today, if any, I should say. So it's interesting to look at this and say, what does perspective mean? You know, the obvious thing we didn't talk about at the beginning is coronavirus, and obviously the new variant with Delta and causing a, you know, somebody made this interesting statement. You know, Chris, well, up here in the north, oftentimes you'll find as people are outside, you're outside in the summer. Well, in the summer, what do people do in the south? Well, it's really, really, really hot, so they go inside. Their winter is our summer. So sometimes the spikes might correlate in different states by different times. It was an interesting statement I found. And then also they said something about that. And I go, yeah, but people are getting it here as well. They say, well, some people, it's been so hot, we've been going inside. So sometimes you can correlate some behavior and data, but I think the funny thing is, my mom and I were recently talking, we just wish the experts would tell us we just don't know. They tend to make these certain statements. Yeah, this is certain, this is the case. And then next week or next month, it's a different certain statement that's completely opposing it. So we look at it, there's a lot of unknowability there, but faith in the future is we'll get past this. You know, we're finding a way around it, or we'll live with it, which is what we've done before. So as we go through this, a couple of things. When it goes faith, patience, and discipline for me, again, faith in the future is number one. We have to have that to really even invest and go on, even day to day in life, if we want to kind of bring it down to something granular, just to live. You have to have faith in the future that tomorrow could be better in a different day than today, right? And then really looking at that patience. Patience is one of the things, have you ever tried this? You ever been in a line at the grocery store? And you know that one over there, you know, it seems like, well, there's 6 people in it, so I'm going to go to this one. And all of a sudden that one's just super quick. Boom. So you jump over there. Right when you jump over there, somebody whips out a checkbook. It doesn't know how to write a check. Or they have to go check for a price or something. And the other one goes, shoot, the other line you were in just starts going fast. Well, the patience to stay in the line that you're in, the patience to stay in the plan you're in are very similar. Oftentimes people want to jump in and out. I'm talking of all sorts of different ideas. Oh, let's go into real estate. Oh, let's go do this. Let's do that, do this. I got to tell you, one of the most rewarding, but I'm going to call it boring things. I had a conversation with a friend recently. But, you know, I've done something where all I've ever had to do is have the discipline to spend less than I make and take the extra and put it in something that does all the work for me. It grows. It's grown dramatically. Since I've been born, it's been about since I've been born, it's about 10.73%, as evidenced by political calculations, if you will, and that takes the S&P. Since I joined the business, it's been 10%, 9.73%. Matter of fact, I just read something yesterday. This will be a very interesting piece, and I want to see if I can bring it up here quickly. I can. It was a great piece looking at perspective. So it was a nice one to say, had you invested, well, here's the point. Had you invested, and I'll get the data for you as well, exactly at the top of the market in 2007, exactly at the top, I mean, the worst possible time in 2007, which would have been right around July of 2007. What would your return have been if you'd stayed in the market till today? I mean, you invested the worst time. Right after you invested, the market dropped 54%, 18 months later, 64, I think, at the very bottom on the very worst day. So for every dollar you had, it was worth 36 cents. You would think, oh my gosh, that's the end of it, right? You know what your return was if you stayed in the stock market over that time? 10%. So not only going through that bear market, everything since timing isn't everything. Timing is actually getting in the market and having the patience to stay with it. Watching paint dry is not much fun, but sometimes being in the market is like that. You have to be patient and let the plans that you have do what they're supposed to without interruption. So at any rate, a couple of interesting pieces I've been through with and looked at as well. But the discipline, I think, is the thing that we most have. So how many people know they should go out and walk like 3 miles every day or 4 miles? They shouldn't eat that, high fat food. They should, do this, all the things, right, you should do. And that's why you gotta be careful. You don't want to shit all over yourself. That's what one of my friends, Dan Sullivan, had said, is you gotta be careful about shooting all over yourself, because all the things we should do is one thing. Discipline, though, is the fact that you recognize these are the things that I am going to do. This is what I commit to, and this is what I intend to do. So with the plan and discipline, when a market corrects, so I have a plan and a discipline not to sell. So there's a lot of things that we find over time that are very, very strong in this faith, patience, and discipline. There's more that I can unpack with that as well, but I just wanted to give you a few of the pieces. These have been foundational for what it is we do and who we are. And they're really 3 easy words. And there's 3 or 4 things that we do as well that are very instrumental as well in our asset management side of the equation, which we'll talk about another time. I'll let Zach speak about those maybe on our next program. But those are a few of the pieces I really wanted to touch base with you today on as well. With this, Ken normally has a segment on planning. Zach, is there anything that you have an idea on planning before I hop into Future Loop?
Yeah, one item of note, Ken mentioned health savings account. That's becoming more and more common. How to invest those, what are planning ideas around them, which we're continuing to explore and look at them. One other one that is continuing to be asked about is the child tax credits that we're all receiving. And so if you have questions on those, let us know. We can't actually give advice on it, but it'd be something to explore to see if it makes sense with your CPA and your tax preparer, to see if it makes sense to opt out of it. And if you have to opt out of it, remember that if you're married filing jointly, you both have to opt out. You can't one of you can't opt out for the entire family. So one of the CPAs that shared it with us said in most cases he was having his clients opt out, and you have to manually opt out if you want to get out of it. So it's just a extremely interesting thing to see how that's going to kind of play out the rest of the year and also at tax time next year. If it's a question you have, reach out to your tax preparer and explore if that makes sense for you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Zach. I appreciate that. I found that it's actually, I found this date I was talking before. It's October 9th, 2007, which would have been the worst possible date to put all your money in and invest, if you will. And you can look it up on politicalcalculations.com, but your return for the 1 month shy of 14 years would have been 10% per year. Really odd to see, but you have to have that faith, patience, and discipline to get through it. So a couple of things on Future Loop, a couple of things on technology here that are interesting. Zach talked about drone technology, but Los Angeles is about to get its first robo-taxi test fleet. So actually, this is something that we're going to do in the Olympics, if you saw that in Tokyo, and they decided not to. They've just reinstituted their autonomous taxi service in Tokyo again, post-Olympics. And if you haven't watched the Paralympic Games, I was really enthralled by a rugby game, which is inside on a basketball court with 4 people in a wheelchair. I remember watching it years ago too. And these are incredible athletes. It's really cool to watch as well. There's a new AMD patent that proposes teleportation to make quantum computing more efficient. Now, did you hear that? There's a new AMD patent proposes teleportation. This is the thing that you heard about in science fiction, to make quantum computing more efficient. So you're starting to see things are playing a game that's well forward. Google's new AI photo upscaling technology is jaw-dropping. So basically, it can take a photo that you took that's bad light and whatever, immediately takes a photo and makes it look professional. Those are the things for us who can actually handle it. Otherwise, the technology that's out there, quantum computing and teleporting, well, can I teleport on vacation rather than fly? That'll be the next one. German Space Science Agency says they will discuss moon-based projects. So you're finding many, many, many countries begin to announce moon-based projects. So the next colonization, I think, that you'll look at interplanetary would be the moon. And that's a really interesting piece. You're getting a lot of people talking about Mars and others, but there's a real focus now on the moon and how we all are going to operate. Who owns it? Who's part of it? We're all here on Earth. So there's some interesting pieces to come as well. One NFT project, that's a non-fungible token project, believes that Mars might be the top destination in the metaverse. I have no idea what that means, but it's kind of funny. I look through that and go, I'm not even understanding this. So this is some of the technology you have to really be into to get. Drone highways could be, drone highways in the sky could be on the horizon. For instance, Zach just talked about the deliveries. Well, do you really want a drone coming over your house all the time? When you hear it come by, it kind of sounds like a mosquito, right? So what they're looking is having drone highways. here's where it goes, here's where it can go. So it's almost like a highway in the sky. It's a corridor with which it can actually be versus just flying anywhere it wants to. So they'll be interesting. Hybrid boat plane could transform the way we travel between major coastal cities. So there's a picture of a hybrid boat plane, which basically means you could hop in this kind of water taxi type airplane, and between coastal destinations, just simply travel like you would in a normal taxi. And this hybrid is another interesting piece as well, because it is electric. So it's very, very interesting pieces. When it comes to health, this is one that got me recently. There's an APOE4 gene, and there's a lot of clients who either suffer from or parents or somebody they know has suffered from Alzheimer's. Sometimes there's a genetic predisposition called an APOE4 gene, and if you have two of them, you're 16 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's than if you had one or none. So when you look at this, they're actually finding CRISPR technology. This is gene editing technology to be able to take something that goes into your body, finds all the APOE4 instances, corrects them, so your body no longer has a propensity toward that. Now, this is the future of medicine. So you start to look at that. What if somebody's already developed it? Can we change it? They're trying to figure that out now. So some of the basic diseases we have, how about Parkinson's? How about MS? Can these things be cured by, something like a genetic, genetic recreation, genetic doctoring, if you will? And there's a possibility, very interesting to see. They're also engineering antibodies that could pave the way for like non-hormonal contraceptives. Also, they're using proteins right now for curing cancer. They believe that sending proteins into your body, much like they're doing the mRNA, can actually go in and attack the cancer that's in your body as well. So there's so many things going on here. I think there's another one. Human mini lungs were grown in a lab dish, and they're the closest to the real thing yet. So they literally have grown human lungs in a lab dish, the closest to the human lung that exists yet. So these are things that are happening. Again, the future loop, it's a wonderful thing. So research pioneer optical technology that can slash the energy required by artificial intelligence right now, cryptocurrencies as well, take a ton of energy. Anything that could reduce the energy by tenfold is a massive benefit to them as well. Right now, artificial intelligence has found something much like, if you ever remember JDS Uniphase on optical light spectrums. So when we put fiber optics in the ground years ago, fiber optics used to send incredible things at light speed. That was incredible, right? But we had to put a lot of them in the ground, so it was just one cable per. JDS Uniphase came out, and they put data on the spectrum of light, like 1,000 different channels on a single cable. What was interesting is that fiber optic tube, because there was 50 in the ground, well, all we needed was one because we didn't have enough data to go through them. So 49 of those were dark. Like, what are we ever going to use those for again? Well, enter Netflix and the internet and everything we have now, and now we're filling those up again. So it's interesting to see when you see these multiplying technologies. There's incredible things happening out there on an everyday basis. So if the news you're watching doesn't include those, you might want to find a different news source. You might want to look for those. The difference is, when it comes to the positive, you have to look for it. When COVID cases go away from you, all that happens is you don't hear about it. When a hurricane that's going to devastate the entire country comes through and it doesn't quite do it, all that you do is you just don't hear about it anymore. They don't go through and go, oh, look, it was way better than we thought. There's good news, because that doesn't sell. So again, I'm going to have to say the catastrophic media du jour still exists. Be careful of it. The faith, patience, and discipline it takes to, let's say, get through that, to not expose yourself to that, is very important. I think the biggest thing we want to concentrate on our own mental health, our kids, our family's mental health, because this disconnection of COVID and other things has really caused quite a few issues, especially for kids. We're going to see that as they go back into school as well. So we want to be very careful with them. We want to make sure we're nurturing them, but also strong discipline, consistent systems, and great communication. So with any rate, I know it was a little longer than normal here, but there was a lot to go through. There's a whole bunch more. Markets and different pieces that we have, we'll continue to talk more about. Please still feed us the questions that you have, because we really honestly like to go through what it is you'd like to in these programs as well. And I love the bi-weekly updates. So what I'd like to do is close now, if you will. So Gentian Retirement is what we are here. And we plan it, we live it, and we give it. We really appreciate you. We appreciate all the introductions that you're giving us to us as well. It allows our marketing to simply be working more with you. If we can spend all of our time working with you, and you are the ones who introduce people to us, we thank you. And that's why you guys are recognized as one of the best practices in America. It's because of what you're doing there. We thank you. So for the next 2 weeks, please stay safe, stay positive, and as you always are, remain grateful. Thank you very much.